Oscar and Sandra Pardo and their three children, Esteban, 16, Amara, who's 14, and 13-year-old Sophia, lost their two-story home in Coffey Park to the Tubbs fire early the morning of October 9, 2017. Oscar is an attorney with Perry, Johnson, Anderson, Miller, and Moskowitz. And Sandra is a social worker with the Sonoma County Linkages Program. All 5 members of the family have generously shared their fire stories with us.
In that time that my son and I walked into to see the devastation, I just remember turning into our street and almost feeling like I was in this movie, surreal horror movie, and almost feeling sort of out of body. Walking towards that plot where my house stood and thinking, there was a house there. My home was there. And I walked towards that part and didn't realize, I don't know how long it took for my son and I to walk there, but I almost felt like I floated there. And we were standing by the driveway, and my son looked at the house, or where the house was, and he broke down. And at that point, I didn't have time to get emotional. My grieving process was, I guess, pretty much walking up to that plot. Because once my son reacted the way he did, my job was to comfort him and comfort everyone else and put everything else aside. Whatever was in that house, I couldn't do anything else about it. So my processing was to shut down emotionally, take care of everybody else, and then move. And I've sort of been in that state for the better part of this journey. Just go.
The wind woke us up. So the same wind that caused so much havoc is the same wind that woke us up, because Oscar collects plants outside, and we had a really nice backyard, and the wind was knocking them left and right, so they were actually breaking on our patio floor, the pots. So that woke us up. And we went outside to check what's all the noise, and that's when we realized it's raining ashes. The smoke was thick, and we're at the very end of Coffey Park, so our backyard, you can kind of see Barnes Road, the country road, and it was back-to-back traffic. And it's a country road. No one travels on that road at 2 in the morning. So we realized there's something happening. We take a peek out our front door, and there's bumper-to-bumper traffic in a T. And it was a traffic jam, and we said, there's something happening, let's get out. We charge our cell phones downstairs. By the time I looked at it, we had tons of texts from a close cousin that lived around the corner saying, have you evacuated yet? So, when you're asleep, your brain kind of works in bits and pieces, and we took us a good 20 minutes to piece it all together. That, okay, grab your bag, let's leave. We need to get out now. It took us about 20 minutes. So I remember leaving our home around 2:30 in the morning. We were all orderly in line in gridlock when the left side of Santiago Way was completely open. Did any one of us think to deviate? No. It took a first responder to yell at everyone in gridlock and say, go use the other lane now. And then it clicked. And then you see this massive, movement. Then everyone is just spreading, and leaving.
It felt like an apocalypse. I mean, there was a bunch of cars. It was the most crowded I've ever seen that street ever. It's a quiet place where we used to live, but that night there was, everyone just came out of their house. It was scary.
Like when we were driving out of our street, I kind of looked back for like a split second, and then I was like, oh, well, what if the possibility that I can't go back? But then I kind of just wanted to focus on the positive stuff at that time because anything could have happened. And then, but I think the one who was scared the most was either my mom or my dog, because my mom was so like attached to the house and everything that was there, and then my dog was just crying the whole time because it was so scary to her to be like stuck in a car for so long, because there were so many people that wanted to leave just like we wanted to. It was all kind of frightening because we just wanted to get out.
We had a lot of pictures of family, a lot of family items, and that stuff, that's pretty hard to replace, if not irreplaceable. But that was probably the one that hurt the most. And all this stuff, like my computer, like my desk and everything, that's all replaceable. That meant really nothing to me. A couple months without it is fine. But it was the memories that really sucked. I know we went back to the house, and my mom, the whole family, my mom had us digging for her mom's jewelry. And I'm like, dang. Having to look through all this stuff that really meant a lot to her through the fire, and knowing that we're probably not gonna find it, that was hard. That was really hard. And just going through the rubble itself and finding stuff. Oh, I remember doing that. Oh, I remember that art project from 5th grade. It brought back a lot of memories, but most of the stuff we made memories on, we never got back. And that was a tough part. The irreplaceable stuff, that was the tough part.
Are there times when I sit down here on the couch, on a Friday night after a long work week, thinking, oh my gosh, my kid's baseball glove was in there. My daughter's art that she made for me was in there. Both of my daughters would do things for me. I'm a sort of a storage kind of a freak. I have storage boxes. I had them all over my house. I must have had about a good 50 boxes. But 6 of those boxes were for my kids, 2 each, from when they were babies, that had their baby clothes, shoes, trophies, perfect attendance awards, art projects. Everything that reminded me of my kids were in those boxes. And when I sit down and think about and process what happened to me, the emotional aspect, that's where I go. I go to those boxes. I go to the other boxes where my wife's wedding dress was and her mother's wedding dress was. That's where I go. Because everything else in the house, I've learned that I could replace if I wanted to. But I can never replace what was in those boxes. I can never replace them. When I went back to that house, or what was left of the ashes, and we had to go dig. And I really didn't want to, but the only reason I went there was because I wanted to go to those spaces in that plot where I knew those boxes were, see what I could find. And once I dug around and figured out that I couldn't find anything, that the fire took everything from me, then I had nothing else to go back to. So I stopped digging and I never gone back. And I think about that, but I can't do anything about it. So I just kind of move on.
Our coffee park community has really opened my eyes to see how caring everyone has been with one another, because we might have known maybe 2 or 3 families on our street before the fire, and now after the fire we have met almost everyone on our street, and then some, so it's really that's a good thing that we've gotten closer in that way. And it's kind of sad that we don't take more time to get to know our neighbors. you know, before a natural disaster happens. And that goes for friendships and co-workers as well. You know, I've never had the kind of conversations that I've had with them, with a lot of them, and I've been working there for 10 years. And now our conversations are different. I think it's brought a lot of people closer together to talk about the things that really matter, and not just go on our day by day, you know, busy schedules without even taking the time to say, hey, let's go have coffee and see how you're doing, you know? So that's one thing that I think out of all of this that's been really a positive.
It's really hard in the beginning because if you're tied to something for so long and instantly it just goes away, you're gonna feel like in a state of shock, like it's not real. And the best thing to do at that time is just to say, it is real, but it's gonna be okay, because a lot of other people have done this in their life, and if they can get through that, then I can get through this, and I'm definitely not alone. You know, there's a whole bunch of other people that are going through the same thing.